Welcome back to the Field of 68, and you can see that we are now joined by new NC State head coach Will Wade. Will, first of all, man, it's great to see you. Second of all, I apologize that you have to be that close to Jeff Goodman. I don't wish that upon my worst enemies. So thoughts and prayers with you as you have to deal with a guy that's been on the road for a couple of days, man. You know he doesn't like to shower when he's on the road. I apologize about that.
Well, it's good to see you. I'd seen you since South Dakota, since y'all wrote me into that thing. So,
what's the state food here in North Carolina? What could we make you?
I think it's barbecue. We'll be fine.
Right, you'll be good.
I don't have to eat the chislic. You remember that was the name of the food?
Oh yeah, it was good though. You got to admit, it's a little rough.
It was good.
A little rough.
I actually talked to Coach Henderson yesterday.
Did you?
Well, he's at Drake now, but we talked yesterday on some stuff. So yeah.
How's everything going here? So far, so good. I know it's quiet here on campus in Raleigh right now, but I guess the first question is why NC State? I said it when you took this job. Like, there's probably not a better marriage that I have seen. I've been doing this a long time, 25 years, whatever it's been. I'm not sure there's a better marriage than Will Wade and NC State and the fans. There's lunacy among this fan base, and you fit to a T because you don't give a shit. And NC State fans, they don't really give a shit either.
Well, let's hope it works. They're going to turn their pitchforks on me. But no, I mean, look, we've got passionate fans. We've got everything we need here to win. We just haven't been able to do it consistently. And, you know, it's our job to be able to do this consistently. But I do agree. I think a lot of times when they look at jobs, you know, people really underestimate like the fit and how everything fits. Like you can just throw money at a coach, but there's certain jobs that the fit is really, really, you know, is really, really important. And I think NC State's one of them. I mean, every job's like that, but I think that, I mean, look, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know that. And so, you know.
What do you mean by that?
I probably wouldn't be a very good fit at the University of Virginia.
You don't think?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. But you know, I think that I am a good fit at NC State, and I think that that's an important piece to everything that sometimes gets overlooked in the coaching searches and in the coaching world. You can throw a lot of money at somebody, but you know, you still got to have somebody who's a very, very solid fit with the fan base, with the area, and all that sort of stuff.
I think. So just from an outsider's perspective, I think what makes you the
not a good fit at UConn either.
Hey, no, you know what? You would actually fit in really well up there, man. If you we could have that conversation. Yeah,
you can follow Hurley. You're about as crazy as Hurley.
No, we had enough of Hurley when he was at Rhode Island and I was at VCU.
Well, what I think makes you a great fit there is that NC State is a program that has tradition and has pride, but also happens to be in the same region as Duke and Carolina, which are two of like the five best programs in the history of the sport. And that school needs someone that comes in and looks at it and doesn't look at Duke and North Carolina as Duke and Carolina. It looks at like that's who we got to go beat. That's our competition right there. And I feel like I guess maybe I don't know if underdog mindset that you have is the right way to phrase it, but this attitude of coming in and saying, I'm going to go take the throne. I'm going to go take what's yours. I feel like you have, and I feel like works perfectly within that kind of athletic department and what that basketball program needs.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've spent a lot of time maybe at NC State focusing on the other folks. Like, why don't we worry about ourselves? Mm-hmm. Like, if we can I don't think we've spent enough time maximizing what we do and maximizing ourselves. And I think if we maximize ourselves, we're going to be damn good. You know, and every minute you spend diverting to something else. I mean, there's a coach in the SEC. He spent more time worrying about my program at LSU than he worried about his own program. He got fired. Like, he spent more time following me around and recruiting and looking at stupid stuff. And
who was it? Well,
but you know, but I think if you can focus on your program and spend time focusing on your program and what you do, and we got everything we need here. Like, if there's people that are close to us who have won, then we should be able to win. Right. We're in the same recruiting area. We've got the same basic resources. I mean, look, it's plus or minus 5-10%, maybe, but
is 5 or 10%,
maybe. But I mean, like we've got similar level of resource. I'm not talking about NIL. I'm talking about just like the money share that everybody has. Like we've got similar resources. Like we should be able to do it if we focus on ourselves and maximize ourselves. And to Rob's point, if we find players who have the same type mentality that we have and that our fan base has and that our school has, we've got to find folks who are really, really good fits.
You got any crazy stories yet from NC State fans since you've been here? Anything really good? I mean, Chris Cortiani probably, will follow you around at this point. I saw him in Vegas, by the way. He was out there when we were out there in Vegas. He was wearing me out during the whole process, whether or not you were going to get the job. These fans are crazy. Anything really good so far, or you think it'll take a little bit of time?
Chris probably knew before me or you knew what was going on. But no, I mean, look, it's just – I will say this. Like one thing that surprised me is, to Rob's point, there's a lot of schools within 25 miles of us. And I've been very surprised at just how many NC State fans there are. Like every time we go out to eat or every time I go to a restaurant or every time I go somewhere, it's all NC State. Take a bunch of pictures. People come up to you. I thought it would be a little bit more, divided. But in this area, and especially when you go east to the coast, I mean, it's all Wolfpack. And I think when you go to Charlotte and Greensboro, there's a lot of NC State people, but it's a little more split with especially with Carolina folks. I guess the Duke folks are in Jersey, but
a lot of them.
Yeah, but I think that there's a lot of passion and a lot of excitement within our fan base, and we got to capitalize on that.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today.
Is it strange how the perception of you has changed over the last few years? Because I think it has. I think it has partially because of how NIL has come into play, but not even that. Like when you got fired at LSU and then what you did at McNeese and how a lot of people that are close to me have said even how you handled the situation in March with your players and publicly gained a lot of respect. I think you wear your emotions in your sleeve. You really don't care what most people think of you that are outside of your circle. But how have you seen maybe the perception of you change?
Yeah, somebody told me this morning that NIL stood for now it's legal. I hadn't heard that one before. I was on a phone call this morning, and a coach told me that. Look, I don't know how much the perception has or hasn't changed. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about all that. So look, we are who we are. We've always been who we are. We're the same people. And so, if you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to tell you what I think you want to hear. I'm not going to tell, and so look, I do go at things probably a little bit unconventional just because that's kind of just how I am. And, I'm not going to change a bunch of people's minds. So I don't try to spend a lot of time changing people's minds or spend a lot of time, fighting what people think. And, the people who know us feel one way about us. A lot of the people who don't know us feel a different way about us. And that's fine with me. Like, early in my career, I would worry about that stuff and try to kiss ass with the media and worry about
like you did when you met me from a Harvard assistant coach. You drove all the way out.
Yeah, like when I drove to see you, but now it doesn't bother me. Like if you like me, great. If you don't, great. It's not going to change my life. It's not going to change our program. And so we just kind of go about our business. And hey, we are who we are, and you can take it or leave it.
When you were going through everything with McNeese in the tournament, and it was the worst kept secret in college athletics that NC State wanted you, right? Why did you decide to be as public as you were and be as frank as you were. I think that we've seen a couple of different coaches that ended up taking different jobs in this cycle leave a really bad taste in the mouth of the programs that they left because of the way that they kind of handled it. And I don't think that it's necessarily that way with you. What was the kind of thought process there? And do you think it played out the way you wanted it to?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the first thing is you want to limit distractions. And so I think we were able to limit the distractions with the team by just hitting it head on. And that's how we run our program is, we just tackle stuff head on. If there, we don't run from controversy, like we don't run from tough conversations. I've told her, your success in life will be directly correlated to the amount of difficult conversations you're willing to have every day. And so, we don't sit around and think it's like sunshine and rainbows all day. And, we have difficult conversations. Now, in fairness, I mean, look, my president and my AD, like we were all on the same page. Like everybody knew. And so
it was easier at your level
correct.
Too. Like Kevin Willard got a lot of shit, but if you're at Maryland,
it's a little
you're
harder.
dealing with that differently, are you not?
It's way different. Like everybody, our board member, like everybody knew, like, look, it was 2 years. We had, they knew that there was a high likelihood that we'd kind of been building towards this moment. So there was no need to hide. Now, look, when you're in a different environment, in a high major environment, yeah, you got to, there's no one right way to do it, but you've got to, you've got to do what's best for your situation and and look, we'd have lost to Clemson. Oh, they were distracted. Look, it'd have been, they were distracted. You can make the same decision and they were distracted and, they were playing for themselves and trying to get roster spots other place. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I felt like that was best with our group. Half the kids we recruited there came there like, all right, if you go high major next year, can we come? We have a couple kids that came with us. We have some kids who stayed back because that was best for them. So there was no need to hide from it, but our situation was very, very unique. My AD was a former basketball coach. He understood this thing as well as anybody. My president was
and they had a plan, going forward.
We had mapped things out going forward. They had a pretty good plan, a really good plan, but they had it down to a couple. They knew they had a good idea what was going on. We wanted this to be a smooth transition, and so we had open dialogue all year on everything, and so. Maybe not when we were 5-5, but once we got rolling, we'd had open dialogue, and so it's just I think everybody's circumstance is different. So I'm not saying what we did was right. I'm not saying we'd handle it, that way. Hopefully, we never have to do that again in the future. Hopefully, this is it. But I'm not. But I'm not going to say anything about another coach who handled it a different way because you can't judge somebody unless. I try to coach my team. I think a lot of people spend too much time worrying about another team or worrying about what another person does or worrying about another job or worrying about, what they do. Focus on you. You know your situation better than anybody else. All these other people have opinions, but they're not in your shoes every day. They're not in your situation. They don't know the political firestorm and the politics of your athletic department, the politics of your state, the politics of your school. And so, you just have to, I don't judge anybody based on what they did. And, what we did, certainly you could say it was great. You could say it was awful, but it's just what we did.
All right. Looking at your roster now, pretty good roster so far. I think you're hoping to add at least one more piece, maybe two to this roster. Kind of break down for me the team now, where you want to be, what fair expectations might be for year one.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're not backing down from what we said early in the press conference. I mean, fair expectations are to finish in the top 4 of the ACC and go to the NCAA tournament and have a chance to advance in the NCAA tournament. I mean, I think that would be a very good season for us year one. I think that should be the expectation, and I think that's what we're going to do and what we're capable of doing. We really like the guys that we've brought in so far. The number one thing we need to add is some proven scoring. We have some guys who are going to make some big jumps. I feel good about that. But you shoot 62 balls a game, and we don't have all 62 shots accounted for, right now. And so we have a steady dose of some shots that we need to give out. But we've got really good guys with Holloman from Michigan State. He was a captain for Tom Izzo. Terrence Arsenault played in the national championship game. Jerry Dang was in the ACC, put up numbers. Copeland and Breed came with me. We have a kid from Butler, Langdon, who has a lot of pride in NC State. He redshirted at Butler, was one of the all-time leading scorers in North Carolina. We've signed an international big who we think's really, really good. He's got a 7'6" wingspan, 7'7" wingspan, 6'10". So we feel, we feel good about him. We got a 5-star freshman, Matt Abel. And
so
then we retained, Paul McNeil, who was arguably their best player, particularly the last 10 games. He was arguably their most talented player, and inarguably their best player of the last 10 games last year. So
you feel like it's still.
Oh, we've got it right now. If we don't add, if we just add one more little piece, we're one
more little piece.
Well, I mean, I'm saying,
how tall would that piece be?
I'm just saying, if we added just one more player, we're going to be, we're going to be a borderline, we're going to be able to reach our goals. If we add 2, we're probably going to be able to exceed our goals.
That's what I said. I said before you came on, I said, listen, if you added the 2 guys we've talked about, I think you're talking about, could you be a dark horse, Elite 8-ish type team? If you add both those guys, if you add one of them, I think you're talking about being a tournament team that maybe if things go right, you could get in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I don't know who you were talking about.
Well, I'm not going to say their names because you can't talk about them.
But I think I think there's some other folks out there too that maybe people are missing. But I think that I think we, we'll have with one we'll have a top 25 ball club, and we'll have a top 10-ish ball club if you add multiple. So, we'll see what shakes out. You never know how it shakes. Recruiting changes differently, changes quickly,
especially now, right? Doesn't it? Like, how much has it changed from when you were at LSU, high major, to now? Because I feel like now nothing's guaranteed. You may think you have a guy. You may think you're in great shape with a guy. And years ago when that happened, you would relax a little bit, whoever you were, whether it was you, whether it was Bill Self, who you're fighting with one kid right now, whether it was Kay, whoever it was. I don't feel like there were nearly as many flips as there are now because obviously you've got NIL involved.
Well, a lot's changed, a lot stayed the same.
I guess you're right.
Shoot, I was in that SEC. We slept with one eye open for 5 years. I don't know what you're talking about. They weren't flipping, kids.
All right.
Slept with one eye open 5 years straight. But no, I mean, look, I do think that there's more. I think what used to be taboo, there used to be a little bit more gentleman. Hey, once they commit, we're kind of good. And there was a stigma attached to multiple transfers, and kids would get real worried about transfer multiple times and what people would say and how it would look. And now all that stuff's just gone. That's to me is the biggest change is that, look, now it's all out in the open. And so now it's all out in the open. And so everybody kind of has a roundabout idea. And look, I don't blame the kids.
No,
I mean,
I think
it's good, but they're, and they're gonna make a decision that's best for them basketball wise, but also the financial component has to be there. It doesn't. I'm not saying you have to have the most. I mean, some of the kids we had, we were not anywhere near. We were within the ballpark, but not the most. But you still got to have relationships and a good basketball situation. But I do think that kids are more apt to move now. I think they're more apt to, as a coach, you used to have, and this is why I think some coaches really struggle. It doesn't bother me a bit. You used to have just total control over everything. And, now what happens, you could, and this is why I think basketball, the parity is really good. You could stack a roster. There were 4 and 5 stars going to big time schools to be backups, and they were fine with that. Now those same kids, you can't have the depth that you had. So now those same kids are going to get as much or more money to go be a star somewhere else. And so now when that kid becomes a star somewhere else, one of those kids leaves and then he so there's just, that would never happen before. You could just stack your roster.
Calipari would have he'd go 10 deep and the 10th guy might not play.
Yeah, I mean, when I worked for Coach Amaker, who was awesome at Harvard. Now, we didn't really have scholarships, but there were kids we would take at Harvard. He'd be like, just take him so he doesn't go to another school in the league. Like, we didn't really want to, like, at that point we were
controlling it.
We were He was running the league.
Yeah.
He was like, we would just take him so we don't want to play against him.
Really?
I don't know whether he'll play for us or not, but you could do things.
Yeah.
You could do things like that.
Yeah.
And
Can't do that
you can't do that. You do that now, 2 of your other kids are leaving.
Right.
So I do think it's helped I think everybody ends up where they're supposed to be for the most part. Where that wasn't the case before, and people have missed on that, but that wasn't the case before. The kids who went high major, who aren't high major players, they end up where they're supposed to be. The kids who went mid major, who are everybody kind of ends up within the range where they're supposed to be.
Last one I got for you, coach, is Allan Breed. He played 2 games for you last year. I remember he told us before the South Dakota event, he was kind of the guy, right? He came in, you were expecting him to be a big time scorer. How healthy is he, and will he be ready to go at 100% by the time the season starts?
You actually talked to him yesterday. He's finishing up his rehab. Actually in Atlanta right now. He'll be here this week. I think he's going to be as healthy as he's been. I mean, look, he's coming off a knee surgery. He's going to be as healthy as he's been, but he's a great kid, great person, and he's a really, really talented player. And so I feel like he's going to make a big impact on what we're doing. I think he's going to be somebody that our fans really love. He plays with a blue collar, kind of an edge. We were in Providence for the NCAA tournament. We walked from our hotel to eat at this Italian restaurant, and there were Providence fans like, "Where's Breed? Where's Breed?" Like, they still knew he was with us at McNeese. I mean, he didn't play. He played 2 games all year. And they knew it, so, I mean, he's one of those guys that everybody's kind of drawn to. He's got a magnetic personality. And so we're excited. I'm excited that he chose to come with us. And I think he's going to be able to make an impact on us this year.
You going to the Canes game tomorrow night? I mean, what are we doing here? No? Yeah, I mean, it's slowed down for you now. You got a little bit of a break.
A little bit. We're in a dead period, so we don't have recruits on campus all the time. So you brought them terrible luck last night.
They were horrible. I told Rob at the beginning, and I don't know where you stand on this, but, we don't fork out a ton of money for sporting events because we've never had to, and we just don't, right? But for my daughter, you do it, right? You do it. My wife, daughter, we forked out the money for game 1. Wife went back. We're going to pay for tomorrow night. We walked out of there last night being like, I know I did. Like, man, like, I want my money back. Like, they sucked. And normally when you go to a concert, you know what you're getting. When you go to a Broadway show, for the most part, you know what you're like. We saw Les Mis last week in Charleston. Good show. You kind of know it's going to be pretty good. But with a sporting event, like last night, I was just like, man, like, they were horrible after the first 5 minutes. It's like, I just haven't gone through that often where it was that bad a performance.
Yeah, hopefully there's not many more of those in Lenovo. They'll be running out. They'll be thinking the same thing with me. But yeah, I mean, look, I went to the opener against the Devils that was when I cranked the siren.
Yeah, you did okay. Last night,
you were a little.
I was disappointed.
You were a little disappointed.
Well, did you see the NASCAR driver last night?
He was.
Oh yeah, like poured a beer on him and cranked that thing.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it was pretty good. You were.
Well,
my daughter did.
Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. We won the game I did it at.
All right. Maybe they should invite you back tomorrow night.
No. Let's be clear. It had nothing to do with me. I can assure you of that. But I will say this: like, I don't know much about hockey. You know way more about hockey than I do. But the playoff hockey, like live,
awesome.
I can see why it kept, like. I mean, we had a visit yesterday, and so we were over at the arena. And there were people out there. We were there at 2:30. I think the gates opened at maybe 6:30. There were people out there tailgating. Like, you can see how
it's like a college atmosphere.
Yeah, you can see how people catch on to it and how, like, it is. TV doesn't. Now, it's like most sports. TV doesn't do it justice, but hockey in particular. Like, I stayed for the game we did the siren, and I was like, whoa! Like, I mean, it is fast paced. It is hard hitting. And there's constant action, and I mean, they got to be in incredible shape and their foot speed. And I mean, it was an impressive deal. So hopefully we can win tomorrow. I know Florida's kind of in our heads a little bit.
That goalie, man, Bobrovsky or something, whatever. He's tough. He's tough, man. In terms of like the atmosphere here so far. Have you seen it? I mean, have you already seen? Because I had it last night. I'm at the game, and I must have had 10 NC State fans come up to me like, "What do you think this year? What do you know?" It's funny.
Tell them the truth.
No, I told them. I said, like, year one will be pretty good, and I think year two will probably take the jump. It's funny because when Indiana hired Kurt Signetti, the football coach, he came out there. I don't know if you remember this. He came out there, and I think he said, F Ohio State, F Michigan. Are you going to do that with, like, F Duke, F Carolina? Like, I feel like you need to do something like that here, to really get the fan base even more hyped up about and I know you said at the beginning of this, we're not going to worry about Duke and Carolina.
Yeah, I think that's been part of our problem here is we've been focused so much on the other schools and not focused on ourselves. Like, if we're the best we can be, there's no reason we can't be as good or better than anybody else in college basketball. It just so happens they're up the road. But they're like, we've spent so much time spraying bullets at these other people. Like, let's look internal and focus in on what we do. And so I'm not trying to give some canned answer, but I that's what I believe. I think that's been our problem. Is we've put so much into going after all these other folks. Don't get me wrong. I understand that's important to our fans. They work with these people. Yep. They want to have, and we're going to give them some pride now. I understand that part. But if we would just spend time, if we would spend all the time we've spent worrying about what they have or what we don't have or let's do the best we can with what we got. And if we do the best we can with what we got, I think we're one of the top 10 or 15 programs in college basketball. I think we've got a fan base, we've got an arena, we've got an area, we've got a league, we've got everything that we need. And, I just choose not to spend my time worrying about somebody else, worrying about something else, complaining about like what it is. And let's go do what we do, and let's do it at a high level here. And I think if we do that, everybody else is going to be wondering about where we came from and how we did it and what happened. And it's really just going to be, we just maximized what we're doing.
Well, listen, Wade, appreciate you being here, man. Again, I apologize for what you having to deal with Jeff Goodman over there. It's been a relatively painless, I think, interview for you here. So we appreciate you jumping on the Field of 68. We'll be back next week with more from the Field of 68. Make sure you check out our coaches off the Carousel series, interviewing all of the new head coaches. This will be part of that series.